just leaked. Queen Camilla's secret phone call with Prince Andrew has sent shockwaves through the palace. In the recording, they discuss private deals, hidden frustrations, and a plan that stunned King Charles. His reaction? Cold, swift, and devastating. This isn't gossip. This is a royal betrayal in real time. The leak breaks the silence. The call that rocked the palace was leaked just 3 days ago. A 17-minute phone conversation between Queen Camilla and Prince Andrew, recorded in late September 2025, but only now exploding across headlines. The content? Highly sensitive. The tone? Calm, but laced with intentions, secrets, and plans that no one expected to hear from two royals already walking on thin ice. According to insiders, the leak first surfaced through a private media outlet in Europe, not British press. A journalist received an anonymous audio file along with a typed transcript. Within hours, a verified digital version of the recording made its way into the hands of UK tabloids, who rushed to verify it. By Monday morning, it was front-page news. Camilla's secret call with Andrew leaked. What's shocking isn't just that the call existed, it's who leaked it. Initial reports suggest it was someone inside Camilla's inner circle, possibly a disgruntled aide or a junior communications officer who had access to encrypted call logs. This wasn't a simple hack. It was deliberate, and it came from someone who wanted it to be heard. Palace insiders were blindsided. The Queen Consort's office went silent. Senior aides reportedly rushed to contain the press before the story reached King Charles, but it was too late. The leak broke trust in every corner of Buckingham Palace. Why this leak is worse than anything before? Because it links two of the most controversial royal figures, Camilla, still struggling with public acceptance, and Andrew, whose ties to past scandals remain under heavy scrutiny. This wasn't just a scandal. This was a direct threat to the monarchy's credibility, and it had only just begun. Camilla and Andrew, what the call revealed. The leaked audio painted a picture no one expected. A private, strategic, and almost conspiratorial conversation between Queen Camilla and Prince Andrew. The call wasn't casual. It wasn't friendly banter. It was serious, rehearsed, and calculated. A dialogue that now raises more questions than it answers. In the recording, Camilla can be heard discussing what she refers to as our little arrangements. Analysts believe this is a reference to mutual favors, possibly involving discreet financial assistance or coordinated influence within palace affairs. She even references a past agreement from 2021 that she claims Andrew never fully honored. That alone has royal watchers speculating about undisclosed deals that could stretch back years. The tone of the call is telling. Camilla's voice is calm, confident, at times instructive. Andrew, in contrast, sounds hesitant, occasionally evasive. There's a moment around the 12-minute mark where Camilla says, "We have to protect what's ours. If Charles doesn't see that, we'll find another way." It's a quote now blasted across front pages and interpreted as a subtle but stunning warning. They discuss managing optics, referring to the public perception of Andrew's appearances at royal events. Camilla expresses frustration that Charles continues to distance himself from Andrew, and suggests that certain donor circles might be leveraged to help shift influence. What shocked listeners even more was the timing. The call took place just 2 days before a major press leak about Charles restricting Camilla's access to confidential financial reports. The conversation suddenly feels like more than a coincidence. It feels like a prelude to an internal power play. Analysts and royal insiders believe the call reveals a deeper alliance between Camilla and Andrew than anyone knew existed. It hints at private communications, potential coordination, and perhaps even a shared motive to secure their places in a shifting monarchy. One senior official said quietly, "It's not just the words. It's the fact that they were even talking in the first place." What this call revealed isn't just a connection. It revealed a level of trust between Camilla and Andrew that King Charles never anticipated. And that, more than anything, has turned this leak from scandal into betrayal. How it slipped out. The leak mechanism. The palace prides itself on secrecy, but this leak shattered that illusion. So how did a private call between Queen Camilla and Prince Andrew get out? That's the question keeping palace security teams awake at night. And, as of now, no official answer has been given, but the trail points inward. First, only a select group of royal aides would have had access to Camilla's secure communications. The call was reportedly placed using a private line connected through Clarence House's encrypted system, one that routes through internal palace servers, not standard telecoms. That means someone with technical clearance, not just a casual staffer, had to be involved. Sources say the leak may have been recorded by a secondary device in the room, not through the system itself. That's where suspicion shifts to a staff member in Camilla's personal office, someone close enough to be present, yet overlooked during high-level conversations. One royal IT technician reportedly told investigators, "The call didn't break from outside. It leaked from the inside." Palace insiders have narrowed it down to 3 names: all junior staff who had access to her schedules, call logs, and private room entry codes. One recently left her post, suddenly and quietly, just days before the leak went public. Another was reprimanded last year for allegedly sharing sensitive calendar details with a tabloid reporter, a case that was covered up at the time. There's also a growing theory that the leak wasn't just revenge. It was a calculated release designed to trigger a chain reaction. Some believe the person responsible wanted to expose the deep alliances forming behind Charles's back, possibly to protect the crown from what they saw as a rising threat within. But the palace didn't act fast enough. According to internal sources, there were warnings weeks ago about increased data access irregularities in Camilla's wing. Yet no action was taken. That delay may have been costly. After the leak, palace officials reportedly tried to clean up the digital trail. Encrypted servers were purged, call logs deleted, and access permissions quietly reset. But that only made things worse, because now investigators believe there were attempts to destroy evidence after the fact. Officially, Buckingham Palace remains silent. No names, no charges. Just a tight-lipped press office repeating the same line. "We do not comment on private communications." But behind closed doors, panic is real. Because this wasn't just a breach of privacy, it was a direct hit to royal security, and it came from within their own walls. Charles learns the truth, the moment of betrayal. When King Charles first heard about the leaked call, he was in Windsor Castle, attending a quiet strategy session with his legal team. The moment was described by an aide as tense, still, and unforgettable. A private secretary entered the room holding a red folder marked Urgent, Unverified Leak. Inside was a printed transcript and an audio clip. Charles asked for the room to be cleared. He read the entire transcript alone. Then he played the audio, twice. By the end of the second listen, he reportedly stood silently for a full minute, eyes closed, before saying only one word: enough. This wasn't just any leak. This was a knife in the back, and it came from someone he trusted most, his wife. Not only had Camilla been secretly speaking to Andrew, a royal Charles had repeatedly distanced himself from, but she was recorded questioning his judgment, plotting optics, and worst of all, undermining his leadership. According to a senior advisor, Charles's emotional state shifted rapidly, from shock to disappointment, then to quiet fury. He refused to speak with Camilla directly that day. Instead, he ordered an immediate lockdown of her staff's digital access, froze internal communications involving her office, and requested a discreet security audit to identify any further leaks. What hurt Charles most wasn't the content of the call. It was the context. At a time when the monarchy was already under intense public pressure, when he was trying to restore dignity and order, his own wife had created a parallel channel of influence with one of the most controversial royals in modern history. Palace insiders describe Charles as deeply wounded. For a man who waited 7 decades to wear the crown, trust is not something he gives lightly, and betrayal is not something he tolerates. One longtime advisor said, "You could feel the walls shift." That's how serious it was. Something cracked that day between them. Charles reportedly held a private emergency meeting later that evening. His message to staff was clear. From this moment forward, nothing is assumed. No one is exempt. We move carefully, and we move alone. His public demeanor, however, remained composed. At a charity appearance 2 days later, he smiled for cameras, shook hands, and gave a short speech. But those close to him say his tone in private has changed. Sharper, colder, controlled. The cost of the call was more than reputation. It was personal, political, and permanent. And for Charles, the realization was painful. The threat wasn't outside the palace walls. It was sleeping beside him. Camilla's defense and denials. Within 24 hours of the leak, Queen Camilla's office released a formal statement calling the leaked conversation with Prince Andrew a private exchange taken wildly out of context. But behind the polished words, palace insiders say Camilla was in full damage control mode, and not everyone was convinced by her explanation. Publicly, she denied any wrongdoing. The statement claimed she was merely offering support to a longtime family member during a challenging period. There was no apology, no direct acknowledgement of the controversial lines, and certainly no reference to Charles. The palace PR team chose carefully: deny without conceding, and hope the storm passes. But privately, things looked very different. Camilla reportedly told her closest aides that the call had been twisted to sound like something it wasn't, and insisted that she was trying to de-escalate tensions within the family. She even claimed Andrew had initiated the call, and that she was simply being polite. Some in the palace found that explanation unconvincing, especially given the specific phrasing captured in the recording, including Camilla's now infamous quote, "If Charles doesn't see that, we'll find another way." When questioned further by senior staff, Camilla shifted the blame. She pointed fingers at a junior assistant for failing to properly secure her communications and hinted that her words were being selectively edited. Though no one has provided evidence, the recording was altered. What's more telling is how Camilla has presented herself since the leak. Rather than retreat from public life, she's made calculated appearances, always poised, well-dressed, smiling at photographers. But the tension is visible. Behind the curtain, she's canceled multiple internal meetings, reduced her daily engagements, and now reportedly holds strategy sessions only with a small inner circle. Her goal? Survival. Camilla's defenders, what's left of them, say she's trying to maintain dignity under fire. But critics argue she's simply playing the long game, waiting for the next royal distraction to shift attention away from the scandal. But what remains clear is this: Camilla is isolated, and her defense has done little to ease the pressure. Her silence on key questions, why she was speaking to Andrew, what the arrangements referred to, and how Charles fits into all of this, has only deepened suspicion. Because in a palace full of tradition, silence isn't strength. It's a warning. Andrew's side, what he says or doesn't. If Camilla was under fire, Prince Andrew was practically invisible. Since the leak, the Duke of York has made no public appearance, given no interviews, and has remained completely silent, a move that only fuels speculation about his role in the scandal. Unlike Camilla, Andrew didn't release a statement, not even a line through his lawyers. That silence, palace insiders say, was deliberate, on advice from legal counsel and crisis advisors who fear anything he says could escalate the situation or trigger new inquiries into his already fragile reputation. Behind the scenes, however, it's a different story. Sources close to the family say Andrew is furious, not because of the leak itself, but because of how quickly Charles turned against him. The king reportedly canceled 2 private meetings with Andrew just days after the recording surfaced and ordered that he be excluded from upcoming family briefings. The message was clear: Andrew is a liability again. But some royal aides argue Andrew's role isn't as passive as it seems. In the leaked call, he sounds cautious, yes, but not surprised. His tone implies this wasn't their first conversation. And his reference to keeping the window open on certain arrangements suggests long-standing communications with Camilla outside the public eye. This fuels suspicions that Andrew may have been trying to use Camilla as a shield, someone still close to the throne who could help him regain influence from behind the scenes. A desperate move from a man who has already lost his titles, honors, and public position due to earlier scandals. One palace source even claims Andrew was warned months ago to limit his contact with senior royals, especially in unofficial settings. He ignored that advice. And now, with his voice echoing across global media once again, his name is back in the headlines, tied to deception, manipulation, and insider plotting. The fallout is devastating. Public trust in Andrew was already damaged. Now, it's fractured completely. His silence may be strategic, but in the court of public opinion, it's deafening. And as for Charles, the king's patience with his brother has always been thin, but now it's wearing out completely. Allies and dissidents in the royal inner circle. The fallout from the leaked call didn't just fracture public opinion, it split the royal household in half. Inside Buckingham Palace, loyalties are shifting fast. Some are quietly rallying behind King Charles, while others, more discreetly, are still standing by Camilla. The first clear divide appeared among senior courtiers, particularly those in Clarence House versus those tied to Kensington Palace. Prince William's camp, known for its discipline and distance from palace scandal, has reportedly made it clear they support the king's authority and won't intervene to shield Camilla or Andrew. One aide said bluntly, "William won't risk Kate's image or the crown's stability over this." But Camilla isn't without defenders. A handful of longtime staff, including her personal secretary and 2 senior advisors, have refused to resign or distance themselves, insisting the Queen Consort is being unfairly villainized. Some believe the leak was engineered to destroy Camilla's credibility and possibly weaken her influence in the line of royal succession discussions. The tension has spilled into internal operations. Key palace officials are leaking to the press, feeding contradicting stories. One insider described the environment as Cold War behind velvet curtains. People are choosing sides, quietly but decisively. Meanwhile, whispers of back-channel meetings have emerged. Sources claim Princess Anne and Prince Edward have tried to mediate behind the scenes, urging Charles to contain the scandal before it fractures the monarchy even further. Their goal? Keep the family intact, but not at the expense of the throne's reputation. And what about Prince Harry? From across the Atlantic, his response has been muted, but telling. Insiders say he's watching closely, and that this leak validates everything he and Meghan claimed about palace secrecy and favoritism. Though publicly silent, his silence speaks volumes. The palace isn't just in crisis, it's in internal warfare. And with each passing day, trust is disappearing faster than titles. Media frenzy and public reaction. The media didn't just cover the leak, it devoured it. Within hours of the recording going public, the headlines were relentless. Camilla and Andrew, the secret alliance. Betrayal in Buckingham. Charles blindsided by wife's leaked call. Tabloids ran hour-by-hour breakdowns of the call, while primetime news shows pulled in royal commentators to decode every sentence. Within 24 hours, the story had gone international, with media from the US, Australia, and Europe all running with the scandal. Social media exploded. The hashtag Camilla Call Leak racked up over 3 million mentions on X, formerly Twitter, within 2 days. Some users dissected every word of the call. Others shared memes comparing Camilla to historical betrayers. One viral post read, "This isn't just a call. This is a coup attempt in pearls." But beyond the humor, the public was deeply divided. Older royal supporters were more forgiving, suggesting the call was taken out of context, or a private moment between two misunderstood royals. Younger generations, especially those under 40, saw it as proof the palace remains corrupt, manipulative, and out of touch. And it wasn't just the public reacting. Influencers, celebrities, and political voices joined the storm. One well-known UK activist posted, "If this is how they talk behind closed doors, imagine what else they're hiding." The pressure on the palace was enormous. PR teams scrambled to respond, issuing vague press lines and arranging last-minute charity appearances to distract the media cycle. But it didn't work. The story refused to die. Fact-checkers tried to calm the chaos, confirming the audio was authentic and unaltered. The narrative spun out of control anyway. Some accused Camilla of plotting a takeover. Others believed Andrew had deliberately leaked the call himself to drag someone else down with him. Meanwhile, Charles was painted in the press as a wounded but steady leader, a man blindsided by betrayal but too dignified to lash out. Camilla's image, however, took a deep hit. For the first time in years, even some of her longtime supporters turned away, asking if she had gone too far. And the real problem for the palace? This isn't just a scandal. It's a symbol, a sign that the royal family, once thought untouchable, is now vulnerable, divided, and dangerously exposed. Legal, security, and institutional implications. The fallout from the Camilla-Andrew call isn't just emotional or political. It's now becoming legal and institutional. For the first time in recent history, Buckingham Palace's internal communications network is being reviewed for possible violations of royal confidentiality laws. That's a quiet admission of how serious this breach really is. Experts in royal protocol say the leak may have broken official data protection policies, which every working royal and staff member is contractually bound to uphold. One palace legal advisor warned privately, this wasn't just gossip. This was a classified, unmonitored exchange involving two high-profile members of the firm. Now, internal investigators and UK cybersecurity agencies are working behind the scenes. A full-scale sweep of royal communication lines was launched less than 48 hours after the leak. Devices, backups, servers, everything is being reviewed for vulnerabilities. Some fear it could uncover even more unmonitored or encrypted conversations, some potentially worse than this. There's also pressure to hold someone accountable. If an insider leaked the call, they could face prosecution under the Official Secrets Act, especially if they accessed or distributed classified royal communications without permission. Legal experts say the Crown is within its right to pursue criminal charges, but is hesitating because exposing too much in court could trigger a much larger scandal. Media outlets that published the transcript are also being watched closely. While freedom of the press protects much of what they've shared, palace legal teams have already sent strong advisory notices to several editors, urging them to cease further distribution of the full audio. Translation: back off or face legal heat. Behind all of this is a growing sense that the monarchy's old communication systems are no longer safe. Private calls, once thought secure, now carry risks. One insider admitted, the Queen used to handle crises with handwritten letters. Maybe she had the right idea. And yet, with so much now exposed, the royal family faces a deeper crisis. Institutional trust has been broken. Every phone, every room, every aide could now be seen as a potential leak. And when the monarchy begins to fear its own walls, the true collapse begins from the inside. What happens next? Chaos or reconciliation? With the leak fully exposed, Charles must now choose between two paths: restore order quietly, or begin a series of bold, irreversible moves. Right now, both options are on the table, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Insiders say Charles is considering limiting Camilla's future role, including possibly removing her from high-level briefings and cutting her access to certain correspondence. While divorce is not yet confirmed, multiple royal watchers believe the couple is functionally separated, with Camilla spending increasing time at her Wiltshire residence, and far from central palace life. One source close to the king revealed, there's no public rift. But behind closed doors, there's distance, emotionally and strategically. As for Andrew, his position was already fragile. This call may have buried any last chance at redemption. He's been shut out of all royal planning, barred from attending official events, and is said to be completely isolated within Royal Lodge. His silence may protect him legally, but it's destroyed what little reputation remained. And yet, the worst may still be coming. Multiple insiders have confirmed that a second leaked call exists, one that's far more explosive and allegedly involves a third royal family member. Palace legal teams are doing everything they can to keep it suppressed. But the media buzz is growing louder. If this second recording surfaces, it could bring the monarchy into uncharted crisis territory. Public trust continues to erode. A new survey published just days after the scandal shows 68% of respondents believe the royal family should be subject to external communication audits, and nearly half think Camilla should resign from her public duties. And then there's the big question everyone's asking. What will Charles do next? Will he make an example out of Camilla? Will he forgive? Or will he simply wait for the chaos to pass, hoping silence will eventually drown the storm? One royal historian summed it up best. This isn't just a scandal. It's a test of power, of loyalty, and of the monarchy's ability to survive betrayal from within. The royal chessboard is in motion, and the next piece to fall? It could change the crown forever. With trust shattered and the monarchy in damage control, the fallout from Camilla's leaked call is just beginning. Charles is pulling away, Andrew is isolated, and rumors of a second, even more damaging recording are swirling. What happens next could change the royal family forever, and it might drop any minute.